What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, it's been a while. How are you doing?
Yep. Hey, I'm doing pretty good. We had some family stuff going on, so I couldn't make the last show. But the good news about that is I'll actually be able to go to that Rams 49ers game at the end of the season. So that, silver linings and all that. But it's good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a while, guys. We're definitely glad to be back. We got a cool show for you guys tonight. If you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We are trying to reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. We're getting pretty close. Also, like this video, share this video. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. But without further ado, we're going to get into tonight's show. Matt, it's been reported by multiple outlets. I think I saw it myself by 49ers Web Zone, that the State of the Franchise event that's scheduled to take place tomorrow night, the 49ers are, of course, rumored to announce the red throwback jerseys, and it looks like Fanatics is already getting ready to sell those jerseys. Unfortunately, they'll only have a select few. I believe it's Fred Warner, Kittle, Bosa, Garoppolo, and Samuel. How excited are you to see this?
It's a double-edged sword for me. First of all, Fanatics choosing Garoppolo is kind of weird, but I think most of the fan base would be more excited about a Trey Lance selection rather than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think Fanatics is going to have a hard time moving those ones. There's a few holdovers of the Jimmy Garoppolo stands out there who will pick one up, I'm sure, but So for me, we all saw the leaks a couple months ago, right? That somebody put out along with the Browns doing their, from their 1946 season, they had the drop shadow numbers. And, for the 75th anniversary, it's really cool that they're going to do something. I just wish it was kind of something different, having enough time to look at it. The 94 throwbacks are super cool. I really like them. The red ones are awesome, but I was just hoping for the 75th anniversary, they do something a little original, right? Maybe even just play up on them a little bit. Maybe instead of black drop shadow, they do a gold trim or something like that, right? For as likely as it is it's just going to be the 94 throwbacks, I'm going to hold out hope that they do something a little bit different. And, the thing with my hope is that when they showed those jerseys that were on sale, the Bosa in particular, the red 94 throwback, the 75th anniversary patch wasn't on it. And I can guarantee you the ones they're going to sell will have that patch. So I'm holding out a little hope that they're going to do something different, but I'm 99% sure that it's going to be the 94 red throwbacks. And, that's just me kind of nitpicking, but, I like the red 94 throwbacks, and I'm ready for something other than, I love the all whites, but I'd like to see them rotate maybe both of those in during the course of the season.
I totally agree. Also, it was announced, I forget who broke the story, but the rules change now allows the team to have an alternate, I believe, throwback helmet as well. So that's something we'll see for the first time.
Yeah, 2022.
2022, okay.
Goes into effect, yeah.
So that would be cool.
And to touch on, Steve posted in the chat, if the jerseys are stitched, they won't have the rookies. If they offer a custom version, then you can get the rookies, because that's how I got my authentic Trey Lance stitched jersey. I just did it as a custom.
Smart. Can you guys give one away? Yeah, we'll give one away, man.
Yeah.
We let the winner choose, whichever one they want.
Can we give one away? Come on, guys. We're giving away everything all season long.
You should know better than that.
I know.
As long as we can wear our throwbacks in the Super Bowl this year, I'm happy. Hey, all right.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. That to me is just a gripe, right? Where it's just it's the 75th anniversary, and the patch is really cool, but maybe they could do just a little bit more, and that's just me being greedy. That's all that is. I really like the 94 throwbacks. That team was my favorite team to watch. I remember distinctly, not to date myself, but I was 12 years old when that team was, in my formative years, watching that team just skunk everybody to win the Super Bowl. And actually, I remember early in that season, they were struggling a little bit. So I think it was the Minnesota game where Steve Young got benched and he just started yelling at George Seifert, and it turned into this big to-do, but then they turned it around, and I'll always remember that 49-26 skunking of the Chargers. It was awesome. So
yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to witness any of that, but
why were you not alive?
When was that? 94,
94.
obviously. I was born in 94, so no.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, barely alive.
Yeah, barely alive. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I totally see what you do mean though, by you wish they would have done a little more. But
Yeah.
at least we got the Whites last year, and it seems like we're gonna get the Reds this year. Who knows what happens going forward? At least it's not the black ones that had the fan base pretty divided. Seems like most people like these. So
yeah, absolutely. I think in the future, I just want something with gold trim numbers because I just feel like it would fit the team so well. I mean, their standard jerseys are so iconic and classic that I don't have a problem if they never change them. But for like an alternate or something, I think that like gold trim numbers would be pretty sweet, given that everything that the team has in terms of like the color scheme. So, and I was a fan, even though the team was like trash. Those 2000s uniforms were pretty cool.
Yeah, no, they were nice. So Al Guido, John Lynch, Jed York, if you're listening, get those gold trim in there.
Gold trim.
These gold trim numbers. The next topic we have here, though, there's an article from Kirk Larrabee from 49ers Web Zone who was talking about how Matt Mayoko has been saying that Trey Lance is the one player who he's seen make the most improvement over OTAs. And Matt Mayoko, 49ers beat reporter, was on the sports radio KGR in Seattle on Tuesday, and he was talking about Trey Lance and how it's a visible improvement, which you always like to hear. And the quote is, he might be the only person since I've been covering the team, which is about a quarter of a decade, that from 1 week of OTAs to the next, you could actually see the improvement. The first week we went out there and he just kind of seemed to be a little bit unsure of himself, a tick slow. The ball was sailing high. You could tell there was just a lot going on in his head. And then the next week he went out there and you could tell he was directing traffic, moving guys from spot A to spot B, and he threw the ball a little bit more accurately. It's not that often you see a dramatic change. You see a change dramatic that you can see with your naked eye. Does this get you excited?
I take three things away from this. One, Matt Mayoko is a great hype man for the 49ers, and he's going to hype up Trey Lance. I think that's a big thing. Two, Trey Lance hadn't played any organized football. He played one game last year. Really, the 2019 season was his last season playing actual organized football. Everything else has been private workouts or getting guys together. And I think that, it might have taken him a little bit to get used to that team structure again, to kind of, get used to, okay, this is how we direct the offense. This is how those things slip, the detail things slip, right? The physical attributes are always going to be there. The fact that you can sling it is going to be there. But then when you're going and trying to knock the rust off, there's going to be those high throws because guess what? You're thinking about what you're doing rather than just playing football. The third thing that I take away with this and what I am excited about is this kind of shows what Shanahan and Lynch were talking about and what the draft scuttlebutt was about Trey Lance, in the fact that he is a very intellectual quarterback who picks things up very quickly. And so if that can bear out beyond just OTAs, which is, again, it's shells and shorts. So let's not get too crazy. But, of course, everybody's excited about Trey Lance. We all want to see Trey Lance. And this is weighted against the, Jimmy Garoppolo is better than he's ever been thing from Kyle Shanahan. So, if we have a great quarterback room, that only bodes well for the team. And this is going to be a playoff team. So, if they can stay healthy, it's a playoff team. There's enough here that they can make a deep run. So, yeah, you like to see those things out of Lance. I want to see them carry over into, training camp and really into preseason games. I think preseason games are going to give you a really good indication of where he might be at that point. Yeah,
that's a great point. And I'd like to preface this by saying I've heard year after year Trent Taylor is the best receiver going into these camps, and it just never really seems to translate onto the field. Don't get me wrong. I think Trey Lance, Trent Taylor, two totally different players, and we'll have two totally different careers, obviously, but I'm just going to kind of hold my horses a little bit before I get overly excited. But it is promising to see, and I agree with you. It shows that Trey Lance can take direction, can be coached, and that's what you want to see out of a guy who the 49ers just gave up, a lot of picks to move up to get. Let's see, John Lynch.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Somebody did a mock draft where they were like, yeah, if everything breaks right for the 49ers, they're not going to pick inside the top 50 next year. So yeah, this is definitely critical that Trey Lance does make that improvement, because team building is going to be harder from now on. His cap hit and getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo is going to create a little bit of breathing space, but most of that's going to go to re-signing Fred Warner, getting ready for a Bosa extension. I'm sure the post-COVID cap rise will be a little bit of a boon for the 49ers and a little bit of relief for them. But, it's not like they're going to be able to, go wildly, over the top in the draft. Movement's going to be difficult. So depending on what happens, I mean, the 49ers are kind of stuck with what they got, and you're going to have to find those second, third, fourth round gems in terms of, we got to replenish the defensive backfield, maybe get supplemental pieces here and there. So definitely, if Trey Lance can make it, that just makes things easier. So here's hoping that Mayoko's right, and those improvements are, it's a steady stream up. It's continual growth.
Yeah, definitely. On the same appearance on the sports radio KGR in Seattle, Mayoko went on to say not only that John Lynch was reiterating basically what Mayoko felt as far as Trey Lance showing growth, but that he expects the 49ers to utilize Trey Lance early on as a runner in his career, and that he expects them to get him in for 2 or 3 plays a game, and then you can work stuff off of that where he can throw off of that, throw the ball down the field, get some more packages where you can expand and make them a little more successful. We had talked about this previously, and I don't remember exactly what your opinion on was having him on a couple of plays here and there for running plays.
I look at it as, 2011 49ers, where Colin Kaepernick was a rookie and they ran certain packages for him to get him involved. And I think that's similar to what Trey Lance is going to be able to do, especially if you're looking like, maybe a red zone play here or there that changes the dynamic. Because the one thing that the 49ers have continuously done, I mean, red zone offense has still, has continuously been a sore spot where they're coming away with 3 points where they have to come away with 7, and so if Trey Lance can get out there for specific packages and kind of, tune up the defense in terms of, opening things up so they can score more points, that's only going to behoove the 49ers, going forward. So I think that that's probably a safe bet. Now, he's going to be used like Taysom Hill lined up out wide stuff is crap. So anybody saying that is, kind of full of it. So I don't believe any of that, but using him in specific packages, absolutely. I think that he can do that.
Is there any concern in your mind about him getting injured, or, just having him out there and being physical as a quarterback?
I've never, I mean, if you line him up out wide, you're putting, there's acceptable risk in terms of, if you're running him in there for red zone packages and you're rolling him out and potentially using his legs as a threat, well, that's what he's going to do anyway. So that's just the cost of doing business in terms of Trey Lance being your future starting quarterback. But lining him up out wide is an unnecessary risk to me. I'm not one of those guys. I had it out with somebody who was saying, like, what if Nick Bosa's knee isn't all the way ready? Like, they're going to have to put him on a snap count. And I'm like, his knee is going to be healed or it's not. And you can't play football and think about, oh, well, what if I put him out there one play too long and he gets hurt? Like, he's either ready or he's not. So in my mind, injuries are a part of the game, but you cannot play people in terms of, oh, well, if I play him at his position doing what we need him to do, he might get injured. You minimize the risk elsewhere, of course. Like, don't line Trey Lance out wide and actually use him as like a wide receiver or something. That doesn't make any sense. The Taysom Hill treatment doesn't make sense for the 3rd overall pick. It makes sense for Taysom Hill, undrafted guy. That's what it makes sense for, but not somebody who you put that much into. So, yeah, I'm not worried about Trey Lance getting injured. That to put it honestly, if he's playing quarterback, that's what he's doing, and I'm not worried about the injury thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And there's a lot that he adds to the offense immediately. He brings that entirely different component, and we've talked about it. Kyle Shanahan discussed it. When you have your opposing defenses suddenly have to defend 12 players instead of 11, or 11 instead of 10, excuse me, then that just totally changes everything. And especially during the red zone offense, like you said, Matt, it just makes things so much easier for an offense and hopefully makes it run more efficiently. We have a comment here from Rolls Royce. Someone tell me what Jimmy can do that Lance can't. Trey Lance opens up the offense. Jimmy holds it back.
We don't know that Trey Lance opens up the offense. Trey Lance has never played an NFL game. And I think that Trey Lance has all the potential in the world, but we need to see it on the field. One thing that Jimmy can do that Trey Lance can't Well, he took this team to the Super Bowl. And say what you want for Jimmy Garoppolo, but the 49ers averaged like 28 points a game with him at quarterback. So the scoring, it's not necessarily holding back offense in, yeah, you'd like to see, okay, yeah, we can throw deep or we can do some things. The offense is limited, not held back. There are things that Jimmy is going to do well, throw over the middle, short intermediate throws, things like that, that the offense is going to be geared towards. Just like when Trey Lance gets in there, now you're going to see more bootlegs. You're going to see more quarterback designed runs. You're going to see, RPO be more effective because, the edge defender might have to crash or he might have to follow the quarterback, which kind of gives you an extra, like, again, Shanahan said, 11 on 11 instead of 11 on 10. It just, is Jimmy great? No. But can he be a starter in terms of a team that you could take to the Super Bowl? Obviously, because we've seen it. So, again, the biggest knock on Jimmy from the organizational standpoint, and I think a lot of the fan base standpoint, is that he gets injured too much, and they had to bolster the position. We all are tantalized by what Lance can potentially do, but until he does it, we can't say that Trey Lance does all these things that Jimmy Garoppolo can't, just because we haven't witnessed it. There have been a ton of players, and, knock on wood that it's not Trey Lance, but there have been a ton of highly touted players that have come into the NFL and just have not been able to replicate their college success. And not all of these quarterbacks are going to work. There's no way that Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance are all 4 franchise quarterbacks. That's just, it's unheard of. And if it does happen, I mean, this will be a better quarterback class than the vaunted 84 class then, if that happens. So, we'll see what happens. But right now we got to pump the brakes on what Lance can do that Jimmy can't. But I will give you Taysom Hill is trash.
Yeah. And, it's a matter of mentally grasping everything that Kyle and the offense is going to ask you to do. Jimmy at least has he's got the awareness of what the playbook is. He knows the playbook. He's been in the system. Like you said, he's played in the NFL. Trey Lance has yet to do that. And I just think we should pump the brakes a little bit. You agree too, but there are plenty of fans on Twitter who are saying Trey Lance should, as of right now, start week 1. I think if he's ready to start week 1 and he proves that to the coaches, he will. There's no doubt in my mind he will. Which kind of leads me to the title of this whole show. Is this still Jimmy Garoppolo's team?
I think from a leadership standpoint, I think it is. Just because he's well liked in the locker room. It's very apparent that people like Jimmy Garoppolo. So
can I cut you off real quick?
Yeah.
Does it mean anything that it seems like from all the reports I've read, Trey Lance has been the one setting up all of these practices and workouts with other players, and I haven't seen Jimmy Garoppolo do any of that this offseason. Do you take anything from that, or is that just whatever? I think that's what a rookie should do if you're trying to ingratiate yourself to the team, and especially if you're trying to learn and catch up after a year of not being in organized football. Of course, you want to build that chemistry. I don't want to read too much into it, but the coaches have come out and said, "Hey, look, Jimmy's the starter right now, and if that changes, it changes." But right now, until it's Jimmy's team until he's no longer starting. That's the one thing. So, and for Jimmy, he's going to come in hungry and he's going to come in and do the best he can do. So, I disagree with Rose's comment that he's 1 foot out the door, just because if he's 1 foot out the door, he's not going to get that opportunity elsewhere. He needs to put his best foot forward, not out the door. So I think that Jimmy's going to come in hungry, and if they can get some value for him at the trade deadline, I think that's really what we're looking at. So, I think it's still Jimmy's team until he's no longer the starter. Football is very unique in the situation that the starting quarterback tends to be the leader of the team. So if you look at it as, it's Jimmy's team and then Trey Lance takes over, the team is going to support that decision, and they're all going to know. They're all going to see it in practice and things like that. But the fact that people are so publicly adamant about defending Jimmy Garoppolo right now, especially players, that to me speaks volumes that Jimmy's very well liked in that locker room. And until it's, Trey Lance, then, it's Jimmy's team until that point. It will be Trey Lance's team eventually. But I'm not saying that it won't be. I'm not saying that Jimmy has a stranglehold or that he's, disproportionately ahead in the race or anything like that. And I think that everybody knows that it's going to be Trey Lance's team.
in the locker room, in whatever. But until that point, until the players think that, hey, it's actually Trey Lance's time, they're going to support Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
I think I agree with you. I think it's Jimmy's team to lose. I think if Jimmy comes in and shows
he's gonna lose it.
He will lose it. Yeah,
he will lose it. I mean, it's not. I don't agree that it's his team to lose. It's his team for now. It's his team until it's not.
Fair enough.
The team has said we're comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo being the starting quarterback for this entire season, if need be. So, the players if the players think that they can win the Super Bowl, whoever they think is going to go out there and help them win the Super Bowl, that's who they're going to ride with. If Jimmy's out there and they're 6-1, they're going to be riding with Jimmy. If they go out there and Jimmy struggles, they're going to be calling for Trey Lance. It's just going to depend on what happens. But I think that Jimmy is on, he knows that he's auditioning for his next job. So in that vein, it's his team because he's going to come in, he's going to put the work in. Nobody's ever accused Jimmy Garoppolo of being lazy or being less than a leader. It's, his is like, can he improve? And it's like, we don't know. He's been injured so much that we haven't been able to see that year-over-year improvement. So that's just where I stand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get you. And I agree with you. I think that what I meant by it's his team to lose is that if he plays well, he keeps it. But if not, there's a guy like right there that the team obviously has a vested interest in starting sooner rather than later, performing well. The fans want to see it. It's not like the last couple of years where it's Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard there's a promising young superstar that the team just gave up a lot of capital to get right behind.
It's my first show back, roll. So I'm going to let that roll. I'm going to let that roll.
Yeah, so I just think that the 49ers, they have a nice problem to have when you have two good quarterbacks competing to be. I know they say if you think you have two quarterbacks, chances are you don't have one. This is one of the rare occasions where I think the 49ers do actually have two quarterbacks, and it's for a very small period of time. We've discussed whether or not we think Jimmy gets traded. We discussed whether or not we think he plays the whole season. A lot can change, and there are a lot of variables that go into it. But again, the 49ers have a good problem on their hands. And I think we'll leave it at that. But I just think that if Trey Lance proves he's ready to start come week 1, then we'll see Trey Lance start come week 1. I don't think that the 49ers are going to say, oh, no, this is still Jimmy's team. I think if he proves to the coaches, shows enough that he can handle it, I think we'll see him. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing. No one's hurt my feelings, Rolls. That's not what it is. I just think that it's a little presumptuous of people to assume that a person who's never played in the NFL is immediately going to be better than somebody that has. And I think everybody needs to slow their roll. There's no rush. There's no rush to get Trey Lance in. Okay? If Jimmy's playing well, that means the team is going to win. And even though, listen, does Jimmy G scare anybody? No. But he's respected enough that it makes the team better. So the record does say something. I mean, you can't sit here and just bash Jimmy Garoppolo after we watched CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins all season. Y'all were the same fans asking for Nick Mullins, and then what happened when he got in? Noodle Nick screwed everything up. So,
the comment's funny.
Whatever, guys.
There's a comment here, though, from Carlos Gons. Kyle does need to improve as head coach. His ego sometimes gets in the way. There was a ranking recently by CBS Sports, Cody Benjamin, and he recently had Kyle Shanahan ranked number 11th going into the 2021 season. Is that too low? I mean, obviously, I think it's too low. Do you think it's too low?
No, I think that's about right. Just because when you base it off, the 49ers have had injuries, but I do agree with Carlos that sometimes Kyle overthinks things and he calls plays to kind of be more tricky rather than just sticking with what's working. And the fact of the matter is that Kyle right now is under 500 as a head coach. So the fact that he's 11th is kind of, it's right there. Everybody recognizes the genius, but the results haven't been there. So he can't be ranked higher until the results start to follow what we were like. Oh, okay, Kyle's this genius. Well, show you're a genius. For whatever anybody wants to say about Sean McVay is a winning head coach. Mm-hmm. Sean McVay has a winning record. So Kyle kind of has to step it up. And I think that's part of what, health definitely has played a factor, but some of that play calling definitely hurt in the Super Bowl. Both times he was in the Super Bowl with Atlanta in 2016, with the 49ers in 2020, 2019, 2020. Yeah, it definitely makes a difference in where you can rank him based off of those big time crunch performances. And people said it about Andy Reid until he won the Super Bowl, right? That Andy Reid, like, really good coach, but I don't know if he can win. And so that stops you from building your legacy in a way that gets you into that top 5 coaching conversation. I think he can get there, and I think this is a pivotal season to get him there, but we really need to see the results this year.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I think that Kyle Shanahan, the potential is there. The potential is obviously there. People see it. People were ready to crown him as the next Bill Walsh as soon as Jed gave him that contract, and you could see why. He's an extremely bright offensive mind, arguably the best in the NFL, if not top 3. And just, to go over it, the list from CBS Sports here, Kyle Shanahan starting from 11. 10 is Mike Tomlin. 9 is Matt LaFleur. 8 is Bruce Arians. 7 is Pete Carroll. 6 is Sean McVay. 5 is Sean McDermott. 4 is Sean Payton. 3 is John Harbaugh. 2 is Bill Belichick. And 1 is Andy Reid. So I agree with you, although I said, obviously, 2 minutes ago, I think it's too low. Going over those names, I find it very hard to see one of those guys that Kyle Shanahan should be ahead of.
I think you could argue that McDermott and LaFleur.
You think?
I mean, LaFleur came from Shanahan's coaching tree, so and that's a little bit of recency bias, right? True. It's not like the Packers are trash. They make the playoffs if Aaron Rodgers is there. It's easy for LaFleur to make the playoffs. Like, come on. Now, McDermott's done a great job with Buffalo, but that's been a process too. So one could argue, the 49ers were rebuilding at the beginning, and, Shanahan in his one healthy season with the guy that he liked, they went to the Super Bowl or whatever. The record and the play calling in the Super Bowl, it was holding Shanahan back in my mind. I think on a day-to-day ground level coach, that Shanahan is better than McDermott and LaFleur. That's for sure. I can't argue. Tomlin, I think, is a little high. I think that Tomlin's a good coach, but to me, he's too undisciplined for that team to ever get anywhere. That's just me. I actually would throw top 10 consideration to someone like Brian Flores, who's done a great job in Miami. So
good, yeah, good shout. I like Sean McDermott because I
like him too. I mean, Buffalo's awesome. Yeah, and it's consistent growth, and he's been able to develop Josh Allen in a way that has been beneficial and going forward. I just think, again, it's just a lack of time.
Yeah, and with that said, 5 overall seems a little high, even over. Gosh, Bruce Arians. Pete Carroll. Yeah. I mean, Pete Carroll would you still have Pete Carroll 7th best head coach?
I wouldn't even have Pete Carroll in the top 10, to be honest, because without Russell Wilson, what has Pete Carroll ever done? Nothing.
I don't think he would still be the Seahawks head coach.
No, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
So if you take Russell Wilson out of the equation, what Pete Carroll would most be known for is cheating at USC.
Yeah.
And that's not even to hate just because it's like the Seattle Seahawks or whatever. But I mean, how many times? Because he has a big say in who they draft, right? He has a big say in what they're doing. And like you're talking about, Pete Carroll is a defensive guy. And, after the Legion of Boom aged out and after he had been out of college long enough to not, know who each of those players was, his defense has just been bad and mediocre at best to bad every season. They can't build the offensive line. They have these first round exits, second round exits because they just pour these resources into things that they don't need. Yep. How many running backs have they drafted?
First round,
right? First round running backs. Like their first round picks have been awful. So I don't know, man. I think that Pete Carroll is overrated because of how good Russell Wilson is. That's just me, though.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of these head coaches you get in the NFL, and if you land with an elite quarterback, franchise quarterback, your job is probably prolonged automatically by 2 to 3 years.
I don't agree with that, Rolls. I don't think Jimmy was ever a Kyle guy. I think that Kyle begrudgingly took Jimmy on, and when Jimmy won those last 5 games, he was like, fine, let's let it rock. But you just watch his demeanor on the sideline every time Jimmy does something that Kyle doesn't like, and it's really bad. That his reaction is like, will you just get the hell out of here? I don't think, again, we've talked about this on the show multiple times. I don't think Kyle likes Jimmy necessarily.
It doesn't seem like it. CJ and Nick, though, definitely can't argue.
CJ and Nick for sure. CJ and Nick for sure. Yeah. Nick got away with so many things that, like, when he would do it, he would not get the looks that Jimmy got.
It was almost like he expected that from Nick Mullins, but he expected better from Jimmy Garoppolo. So when Jimmy Garoppolo messed up, that's why Kyle Shanahan was extra mad. I don't know.
What are you talking about, Rolls? What are you talking about? Kyle had nothing to do with that. Kyle was asked about it after John Lynch had been called by Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick lobbed that phone call to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Because the situation with Tom Brady and Robert Kraft pissed him off. And he was like, well, you want me to get rid of this guy? Fine. I'm going to put him in a spot where I think he'll do well. And he called. There were multiple first-round offers before that season. Cleveland offered first-round pick, at least for Jimmy Garoppolo. There were teams offering, and the 49ers got him for a second. Bill Belichick called. And then John Lynch came to Kyle Shanahan, was like, well, what do you think? And Kyle Shanahan's thinking was like, well, we could trade for him, but I'm still after Kirk Cousins. This has all been documented. I don't know where you're getting this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can be contrarian if you want, but we all know the facts. So, you know.
This is what's been reported. What Matt has laid out, that's been the story that's been reported. So that's according to you. John Lynch forced Jimmy on Kyle.
No. He said, what do you think of this move? And Kyle's like, well, all I got is Brian Hoyer and CJ, who's not doing the job right now. So that seems to be better if you think that that's a good way to, like, it's collaboration, but that doesn't make Jimmy a Kyle guy. That was John Lynch's move. And Kyle was like, well, let's see what happened. And then he won 5 games in a row when he got in. And Kyle was like, all right, let's let this rock. Because Jimmy was in a contract here. And they were like, well, we got to re-sign him. So what do you think? And he was like, well, he won 5 games. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can develop him.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make, like, come on. Nobody's ever been like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is a Kyle Shanahan guy. No, it's always been Kirk Cousins is a Kyle Shanahan guy. So.
Yeah. And Rolls, to be fair, I think your point stands taller by saying Nick Mullins and CJ was Kyle Shanahan guy. That speaks more about Kyle Shanahan. So,
well, okay, yeah, of course he was okay with Lynch making the trade. It was a second-round pick for a guy that in the previous offseason, everybody was like, this dude's going to be the heir apparent because everybody was high on Jimmy Garoppolo then. They're like, he sat behind Brady, learning under Belichick for 4 years. You know, we saw it during Deflategate in those 2 games where he lit up the Dolphins before he got injured. And then that first game, he lit him up. Like, he played really well in those 2 games for Tom Brady. So the bar was set high. Kevin Kolb was like that back in the day. He had that 5 touchdown game at the end of the season. Everybody's like, Kevin Kolb, that's the guy. And everybody wanted him, So the fact that they were able to get him for a second-round pick at the trade deadline when everybody was offering a 1 in the offseason. And Kyle hears that from John Lynch, who's like, hey, guess who called me? Bill Belichick. They want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They only want a second-round pick. Are you cool with that? And he's supposed to be like, nah, man, I'd rather lose every game this season and get Kirk Cousins at the end. No, of course they're going to collaborate. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a team.
The way I see it is obviously John Lynch got the call. Kyle probably thought of it as a second-round pick, which at the time they had a plethora of draft picks.
I think they had 2 that year.
I believe so. For a potential starting quarterback. That is a steal. That's like a dream come true. So I think he was ready to roll the dice.
It was either they had 2 2s or they had an extra 3 from the Chicago trade for Solomon when they went from 2 to 3 for the Solomon Thomas trade. So they had extra capital. So it's like, okay, well, this is a tryout. We're going to give a second round pick for a tryout. Basically. And we know they've done that before. They gave up picks for Emmanuel Sanders to just be there for 8 games. So,
Carlos says, Matt, you think Jimmy G took the Niners to the Super Bowl?
What's the 49ers record without Jimmy G with all the other players being the same. I'm not saying that he loaded the 49ers up on his back and took them to the Super Bowl, but the fact of the matter is that when Jimmy G's in there, the 49ers win a lot more than they lose. And you have to respect it because his talent is at least far outstripping of CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins. That he's not a great starting quarterback by any means, but he's a competent starting quarterback. His biggest issue has been health. And again, this is not like, I'm not trying to, prop up Jimmy as he's the savior. Obviously, the 49ers are replacing him. I've said the 49ers should move on. I wanted the 49ers to draft a quarterback. I talked about that all offseason. I'm just saying that, it's a little premature to just everybody wants to say Jimmy is just trash, trash, trash. He's not trash. He's like an average starting quarterback.
Yep.
That is what it is.
And I think the fact that they have that level of success with him there, healthy, speaks to what they could do with an actually elite quarterback.
Right. And that should make you more excited about Trey Lance eventually.
Exactly. Right. Somebody with physical traits that are elite.
If Jimmy can dilfer the 49ers to a Super Bowl, then yeah, of course. You want to see exactly what they can do with a real starting quarterback. And that's why you should be excited. That's why when people were like, oh, Kyle didn't want, again, this is the same thing. So Jimmy is a Kyle guy. Okay, well, is that the same school of thought where it was Kyle didn't want Trey Lance and he really wanted Mac Jones and John forced Trey Lance on him? We can't have it both ways. The team doesn't leak. So what they tell us, we kind of have to take at face value. So, and it's been told that John Lynch even said, Kyle wasn't necessarily fully on board with the Jimmy thing, but it was better than what we had. We don't know if Lance opens up the offense. You can't say that until he's played in the NFL. You just can't say that.
It's all speculative at this point.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how that
everything with Lance is speculative. And you can be excited about the potential and you can be excited about the progress that Matt Mayoko is reporting, and you can be excited about the tantalizing extra aspect to Lance's game with the running or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. I mean, shoot, if you listen to Chris Sims, that dude, he thinks that Trey Lance's running is overrated.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. I disagree with Chris Sims. I think that it adds a huge layer to the offense. And I do think that Trey Lance can open up the offense eventually. I think that he can. I don't know that he can. You're talking as if it's a foregone conclusion. It's potential. But we don't know. We don't know. But
we got to see.
Exactly. We have to see it. Because Chris Sims is saying one thing, Matt Mayoko is saying another thing, this person's going to say another thing, Rolls is saying one thing, I'm saying another thing, and right now we just don't know. Until it happens, we don't know. Yep,
I agree. And with that said, we're going to move on because we could talk about this all day. Hypotheticals. DraftKings, Matt, recently dropped their preseason odds for their NFL awards, and they have Nick Bosa with the fourth best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. At plus 1,100. Mm-hmm. That's behind Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's about accurate?
That's about right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sneeze at any of those other three guys. No. So, yeah. TJ Watt, really, really good. Aaron Donald, obviously a monster. Myles Garrett, obviously a monster. So,
yeah. I think it's pretty accurate. I think Nick Bosa coming off of the injury, hopefully he's got that extra oomph in the tank. We saw his rookie year just completely ball out. I want to see that part two. I want to see the sequel to that because the 49ers desperately missed that last season and they could really use that.
I mean, he's a double-digit sack guy when he's healthy. He's going to be, if he's healthy this year, he's going to be a double-digit sack guy.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Kittle was recently on the Rich Eisen show, George Kittle, and he was saying, quote, the fact that we're getting everybody back, it's very exciting. Mm-hmm. I think I've said this about 100 times. I still think Nick Bosa is the second best player in the NFL behind Aaron Donald, and I think he's going to come back with a vengeance, and I'm very excited about that because he's a very talented football player, and he definitely makes that defense gear up a whole extra notch.
Yeah.
So, team's excited.
Kittle's been on Rich Eisen a few times this offseason. Yeah. So. And you know what? It's good. It's good media appearances. It's not like Scottie Pippen on Dan Patrick.
Yeah, that was
I don't want to
rough.
get too much into that, but holy crap, Scottie. Yikes, my man.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that. But yeah, Kyle Shanahan was actually asked about Bosa as well and how his progress was going with the rehab. And he said, quote, "I just didn't want to take him out of his routine right now. I totally agree with him being out there. He's going to show up at some time during this, but he won't be going out there during doing anything coming off the ACL. But we fully expect for him to be ready during training camp." So that's really good to hear. Really good to hear.
Yeah, and there were other people with ACL tears that were later in the season that are on track. It really is, I think it's good that we've seen the videos of him out there, so working out and all that stuff, and I don't know, he somehow looks even more muscular. I'm just like, dude, what the hell? He's just out there. His shorts are crying at the leg seams, and Quadzilla's out there running around. So yeah, I fully expect him to be back and ready, and I'm really excited for the 49ers to have a legitimate pass rush. So, I mean, it was cool. We had Kerry Hyder doing his thing and stuff like that. But I think that the threat of Nick Bosa is almost as important as the talent itself. And I think it really opens up, it's going to open up Ebukam. It's going to open up Eric Armstead. There's a reason why Armstead got 10 sacks in the year that Bosa was playing. Yep. It's just Bosa takes so much heat, so much double teams that it makes, his job so much easier. So.
Yeah, I agree. And Ebukam, he seems like his teammates are loving him already. The videos he's posting of his workouts, guy seems like a beast. Hopefully he's able to contribute.
His arms are bigger than I thought. Like he's jacked.
Yeah.
Like he had the in uniform photo or whatever, and I was like, dude, that dude's like yoked.
Yeah.
And we always forget, we got Samson Ebukam. That's cool. We talk about Nick Bosa and we talk about Eric Armstead, but year 2 of Javon Kinlaw, and Kinlaw gets to play next to Bosa this year. They might collapse a whole side of a defense, or offense, excuse me. So I'm excited for that. And it's just going to help that secondary out.
Yep, I agree. Rolls Royce, hopefully Bosa and Thielen will getting sacks. We need 3 different pass rushers.
Yeah, but like I said, I think the threat of Nick Bosa and Nick Bosa's sheer talent of getting sacks opens so much up for everybody else that, when you're looking at Eric Armstead taking somebody one-on-one, right? Like with Bosa out, it was just like, that's why Kerry Hyder was getting sacked, because everybody was focusing on Eric Armstead. And I think that if we really dive deep into the numbers, that would bear that out in terms of who was seeing double teams or whatever. And I think that Bosa is going to chew up a lot of the double teams, and that's going to leave Kinlaw and Armstead and Ebukam free to rush the passer. And if we get the cherry on top with a semi-healthy situational pass rushing D Ford, all the better. And the 49ers are going to eat if that's the case.
I want to show this video from Samson Ebukam, his workouts, which has got a lot of people excited. So check this out.
Hey, watch out. What up, Sam?
That's a lot of weight, man.
That's a lot of weight. They're keeping him safe with the TRX bands, and obviously he's not going parallel because they got the bench underneath him. But the fact that he can put that on his shoulders, right? You saw that bar just like bouncing with the weights on the end.
Yeah.
It's impressive. We all know weight room warriors that can't do anything else, but I am excited about what he can do. And I think that, he showed potential in Los Angeles with the Rams. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is something that if we can get him out there, and again, if he gets situations where he can go one-on-one and beat his guy and, really grow as a pass rusher, it's only going to make the team better.
Bosa makes Chuck Norris scared. Oh man, I remember all those Chuck Norris jokes in like the early 2000s.
I remember all of the Chuck Norris facts. Was it Chuck Norris doesn't? What is it when Chuck Norris jumps in a pool? He doesn't get wet like water gets Chuck Norris.
I've never heard that one. Yeah. There's a lot.
There's so many.
Before we wrap things up, guys, we have a new sponsor to the show. I want to say a quick thank you to Acre Gold. Acre Gold, it's perfect for obviously the Red and Gold Standard podcast. So how it works is you guys can subscribe using the link in our bio, and for as little as $50 a month, you can buy gold. And as soon as you reach the price of 2.5 grams of gold, the market price as it fluctuates, they will send you it instead of dropping $200, $300 at once. If you want to stash a little bit of every check, every month, however you want to do it, they'll send you your gold bars as you pay enough, and they'll send you little progress reports along the way. I have recently signed up for it, and I just got my first gold bar the other day. It's actually really cool, and you sign up for it, you totally forget about it, and then out of nowhere, you get a gold bar in the mail. So go and check it out. The link is in the description below. Help them out. Help us out by supporting the channel. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to Acre Gold for sponsoring the Red and Gold Standard podcast. And also 81 Vino, Terrell Owens, new wine, 81 by Terrell Owens. You can click the link in the bio and use code HIVE. Get 10% off your entire purchase. Free shipping on 2 or more bottles. Go and check that out today. Terrell Owens launched that just a bit ago, maybe about a month ago at this point, and it's got a lot of people excited. So go and check it out. Code HIVE. 10% off your entire purchase. And lastly, of course, we got to plug our Teespring store. We just got our new domain, shop49ershive.com. Instead of having to do all this weird teespring.dash whatever, shop49ershive.com. Use code RGS15, 15% off your entire purchase. Trey Lance merch, 49ers Hive merch, Faithful merch, Treyway merch. We got more coming, but I can only come up with so many designs at once. So go and check them out. Shop49ershive.com, RGS15, 15% off your entire purchase. That's it for the plugs. Let's start getting some questions and wrapping things up here.
Cheers to us selling out.
Cheers to us selling out. Nice iced coffee.
All right. Rolls. My favorite movie is not, or Tommy, my favorite movie is not, sorry, Bug. Lone Wolf McQuaid. I think it's probably Shawshank. If I had to, or Step Brothers, I don't know. I put a lot of movies just on loop.
It's a tough question. I always kind of default to No Country for Old Men because it's just such a fantastic movie. But it's tough because it's like there's so many different genres.
It's such a downer, though.
Yeah,
at the end,
it is downer.
I mean,
it's a downer.
Spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it. Sorry, guys, but the bad guy gets away with it.
Yep.
And then like the cop is just like, I'm old and sad and I can't do anything about it.
Okay. It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
And obviously,
I need to watch The Big Lebowski. I've never watched it.
No, I've never seen it either. I've heard it's really good though.
My wife tells me I'd really like it, but I don't know. I haven't had the time to sit down and watch it. There you go.
Jesus walked on water. Chuck Norris swims on land.
There you go. What was the other one? Chuck Norris doesn't sleep. He waits.
He waits. We're going to start this. Send in your guys' Chuck Norris jokes.
Chuck Norris facts, right?
Thanks for tuning in, Melissa. We're going to have you on soon. Sorry, yes. I meant to reach out to you this week. Work was crazy, but I'm going to reach out to you either today or tomorrow. We'll get it set up.
For those that didn't know, Melissa is going to join us going into the season training camp. There's going to be more opportunities. Melissa's going to be the first. We're going to bring you guys in, and we're going to talk about what the season's going to be like for the 49ers, what your expectations are, what do you think of the state of the team, where do you think they could improve, and all that stuff. So, we love interacting with you guys, and it's time that you guys get on board. And I think heading into training camp during this lulled time in terms of news and stuff, I think it'd be really fun to get other people's opinions. We could talk all day, but we want to hear from you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the goal here. Get the conversation.
And that includes you, Rolls. Put your name in the running.
We'd love to have you on. Fernando, who's excited for the 75th state franchise, state of the franchise tomorrow. Hope we bring the 94 red throwback jerseys and uniforms. We definitely will. Yeah.
And I like the little diamond. It is the diamond anniversary. I'm excited. We touched on this at the beginning of the show. If you weren't here, Fernando, part of me still holds out hope that they do something a little extra rather than just recycling an old uniform. And there's nothing wrong. I love the 94 red throwbacks. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to be kind of greedy for the 75th anniversary and see if they can do a little more. I want a uniform with gold trimmed numbers. I think that would be super sick. You know, it's mainly because there's a disconnect between the gold on the helmet and the gold on the pants. And I just want something to kind of tie it. It's an in between, right? Like it's almost like a gradient because the shininess of the helmets is like that metallic. And then you could do like maybe a little gold trim on the jerseys, which jersey thread is going to be a little bit easier to make, you know, somewhat shiny. And then you go to the more matte look of the gold on the pants. So it's kind of like a flow from head to toe. I don't know. That's just me.
I mean, you got a point. You definitely got a point. Let's see. Tommy, can't wait for the Mills on the show. Need the day. I don't want to miss it. We'll announce it.
We'll announce it ahead of time. Yeah, for sure.
Once we get it all scheduled. Melissa's question, which guard tackle do you want at right guard, left guard, center past this season?
I think they're really going to need to address center going forward. I'm really interested in seeing what Aaron Banks does because that dude is massive. And it looks like he's going to play inside. So, I mean, you know, they do the thing where, like, you know, you get down in your stances and stuff. And obviously Trent Williams always stands out as a really big dude. But, like, Aaron Banks is going to be absolutely massive at right guard. So it'll be interesting, especially when you stand next to Alex Mack, who's like a big dude, but not like the biggest. And so, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I think that, you know, the 49ers have done a pretty good job of trying to bolster that interior offensive line depth. And let's just hope that somebody kind of stands out and can step up. But I think Alex Mack is going to be a guy that, at least for this season, is going to be a huge boon for the 49ers, just from his leadership, veteran presence, experience in the offense. And the fact that we'll have a healthy starting level center for a full season is going to be really nice.
All right. Yeah. I think Aaron Banks is going to develop into a nice offensive lineman. I don't think that will be this season, but definitely past the season. And yeah, hopefully they address the center position. Alex Mack, I think they're hoping to get 1 to 2 good years out of him, and then hopefully can train somebody underneath him. But they need to address that moving forward. Let's see. Tommy Huxley, I used to call him the cone phone, but it's getting watered down. Yeah, Grant Cohn does the cone phone. That's still pretty cool that he does that. Thankfully,
it is a good idea, especially if you can do it through like something like Discord or something, where you can like have people call in during Discord. And, you know, guys, we're still working on making that switch to, you know, more quality. We'll get there. It's just a lot of back end stuff that's a little difficult. So,
yep. Let's see, Melissa, Jennings or Hurd, who do you think plays first and dominates in the future?
You know, it's difficult. Jennings has been being reported as being a little more spry and, you know, agile, which was the big knock against him, was that he was kind of really stiff in terms of like in and out of his breaks and just not, you know, being a little slow footed. I think that Hurd has more natural talent, but obviously with the back injury and then the ACL, we don't know what he's going to be. So I think that wide receiver 3 battle is going to be a really interesting one and one to pay attention to. I know there was an article on The Athletic from David Lombardi and Matt Mayoko kind of teamed up for it, where they were talking about the most interesting quarterback battle in the 49ers is going to be between Josh Rosen and Nate Sudsfeld. But I think the most interesting battle in terms of training camp battles is going to be between 2 things: who gets linebacker 3 and who gets wide receiver 3. And so between those couple of things, that's what I'm really looking out for. You know, I think everywhere else it's pretty set up. I think we have our starting corners in terms of Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett. I think that rookie Ambry Thomas is going to be the 3rd guy in terms of like on the outside, because obviously K'Wan Williams is back to take the slot role. I think Ambry Thomas can, you know, fill the slot role if necessary, especially against like 4 wide where you have 2 slot receivers. I think he can fit in nicely there. But yeah, I think Hufanga is going to be, you know, an interesting addition to the secondary. But wide receiver 3 and linebacker 3, I think, are the 2 biggest spots where you're looking at who's going to take over. And then, like Zach touched on, you know, is Aaron Banks ready to play day 1 or does he need development time? So,
Tommy Huxley, I agree. Many people say Brunskill's going to win that spot, but I disagree. Yeah. 7 wide receivers come out: Sanu, Samuel, Ayuk, Hurd, Jennings. Who do you want the other 2 to be?
Oh man, Well, I think if it's 7, God, I think Richie James is probably on that list.
There's that undrafted free agent,
Austin Watkins.
Watkins. A
And
lot
I
of
think
people
Watkins
are excited
would be on
about.
that list too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think Richie
I don't
James.
see them holding 7 wide receivers though. 7 on game day, I just don't see it.
It's a lot.
5 or 6 at the most.
Tommy Huxley, I'm on Grant's Discord. It's pretty cool. Maybe we should start one up for the 49ers have for all of our viewers.
I'd be down to start.
Let us know if you guys would be interested in that. That's definitely something we can start up.
Yeah, we can start it up and we can give out the link on the next show.
Yeah. Hug Fat, more likely Sermon to rush for 1,000 yards or Trey Lance to start 8 or more games.
Trey Lance to start 8 or more games.
I think so too.
I can't even remember. Like Frank Gore was the last guy to have 1,000 yards for the 49ers, right? And Frank Gore is a legitimate.
Right, yeah.
It's going into Melissa's question later on in terms of rather hold on to Raheem or in Tommy's does Sermon start or is Mostert the shoe in? The thing with the 49ers running backs is Kyle is the running back by committee guy. Even when they had Tevin Coleman and I forget the other guy's name.
McKinnon? No,
in Atlanta.
Oh, Vontae Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman and Coleman. They didn't have 1,000 yards between those two. They oscillated, and I think that this is not like we said it last year, right? When Tevin Coleman was the first back out there, but then Mostert would come in and get most of the yards. It's not who starts the game for the 49ers because that's just situational stuff. Everybody's going to get their shot, and I think that we're again, it's going to be Mostert, it's going to be Sermon, it's going to be Gallman, and I think those are going to be your top 3 running backs kind of rotate in and out, and then you're going to have a 4th guy who's on the roster, whether it's Jeff Wilson Jr. or it's JaMychal Hasty, something like that. Jeff Wilson Jr. obviously has to come back from that injury. But yeah, we'll eventually get there where we have a firm grasp of, but I will say this is a more talented running back room with Gallman, Mostert, and Sermon than we've had in a while. I know everybody, including, people in 49ers circles were really high on Matt Breida. I never was. I thought he was small, injury prone, and fumble prone. So I was never aboard the Breida train, as it were. But this is a more talented running back room than the 49ers have had in a while. So I definitely just expect them to do good things with running. And, with that line beefed up, again, this team wants to run to set up the pass and not necessarily pass to set up a run. It's a run-first team that can kill you if you key in too much on the running. So
I'm surprised you answered that entire question, or you answered that question with the entire answer and didn't touch on Jimmy Garoppolo's inability to start the whole year. You focus mainly on the rushing aspect and Trey Sermon and the running back by committee, but my mind immediately went to the flip side. And Trey Lance is likely going to start if he does 8 or more games in this scenario because Jimmy just can't finish the season if history is anything to go off of.
Yeah, I don't want to be a downer with the Jimmy injury. Like that's it's played out. Like we already know that Trey Lance is probably going to start. But to me, my hope is that Trey Lance doesn't start 8+ games because to me, if he's not starting 8+ games, it means that the 49ers are in a really good spot.
Yeah.
Because the only way that Lance is really going to be pressured to start is if Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt and he has to start, or the team is struggling and there's pressure from interior and from the fans to start him. If Jimmy Garoppolo starts the whole year, it means that Jimmy's playing well and the team is winning. So that's best case scenario for me. Again, I've said it before that he gets the Patrick Mahomes treatment. So that game that I go to in Los Angeles at SoFi at the end of the season is Trey Lance's debut because they've locked up home field advantage. They don't need to worry about it. You know what I mean?
Seems like he got a little extra motivation for that to play out, but yeah.
A little bit.
Big play Dre. Gosh, it's a tongue. Big play Dre or Jason, whose play going to be bigger, and D dominance hope both shine, but especially Verrett.
I need Verrett to stay healthy. That's going to be the big thing. He needs to put together back-to-back healthy seasons, and it's fantastic that he played so well last year. I just don't want to hear third week of training camp like Jason Verrett, tears a meniscus or some shit like that, right? That's like always seems to dog him throughout his career. And like every time Jason Verrett's out there, I'm just like, man, I hope he can stay healthy this game.
Yeah.
Because when he's out there, he's absolutely a top-notch talent. There's a reason why he was drafted where he was. He's supremely talented. Injuries have just snake bit him for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. The 49ers need him, not to mention they bet on him. They gave him the contract, brought him back. They bet on him. They need him to shine more so than Dre Greenlaw.
Right.
I think you touched on this a little bit. Sermon start or is Mostert the shoe in?
I don't think there's a true starter in this offense, to be honest.
It's just, for the stat sheet.
Who took the first? It's who took the first snap.
Exactly.
It's who gets the graphic on Fox.
Which is funny because I'm sure that plays into some contract rules, right? Like X amount of games
I'm sure
started.
It matters to the players for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're like, hey, dude, like I want my name read out loud on Monday Night Football. Like, so I definitely do.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we both think it's Mostert, but it doesn't really mean much right now. Will we notice the change to D'Amico Ryans?
Yes. I think D'Amico Ryans a little more aggressive. He's going to play more press man coverage. And so he's going to blitz more. So I think that there will be slight deviations. And I think that there could be a little bit of growing pains trying to get used to it at first. So it's a good thing that we're starting with the Eagles and the Lions in the first 2 weeks. Lions and Eagles. We get to beat up on some bad teams, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because I didn't want to. There's been a lot, and myself included. I'm not gonna keep myself out of this, but a lot of fans and guys with shows like us have been just kind of glossing over the fact that he's a new defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. This is the first time he's doing this because he's a player and has experience, and because he's been in the system. That doesn't automatically guarantee immediate success. So I'm glad you said there's likely going to be some growing pains. I think fans should prepare for that and expect it. And if it doesn't happen, fantastic, but prepare for the worst, expect the best.
Yep.
Would you rather hold on? This is the question you alluded to earlier. Would you rather hold on to Raheem for speed or move on early instead of late and out due to injury?
I think Raheem is going to play out his contract and they're going to let him walk. I really think that if Trey Sermon stays healthy, that he's going to be like the lead back going forward in terms of like the most talented back. At least in terms of draft position, he's easily the highest drafted back on the team. So, and I mean, I watched him in the college football playoffs and he looked like a man possessed. Like, I mean, he was
balling out.
Oh my goodness. He was so good.
Yep.
So we get that Trey Sermon, even like 75% of that Trey Sermon, it's good for Raheem to have the home run speed, but he will become expendable. That's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Do we see Hurd making 53-man roster?
If he's healthy, yes.
Yeah, I agree. Does Ayuk come out fire, get that 1,000 or more?
I think there is a chance that Ayuk gets 1,000 yards this year.
He was on pace last year.
He was.
And
I think with a better quarterback play, he's going to get it. So now, to be fair, that was a lot of George Kittle injury. It was a lot of Deebo Samuel injury. So, like, obviously, when everything else is not good around you, when you have River Cray crap and some other people, obviously you're gonna look better. But I do think that there's a chance. Ayuk, I think, is genuine. I had this talk with somebody in our chat where they were like, man, the 49ers just need a burner. And I'm just like, Ayuk's like a 4.3 guy. Ayuk's a burner. He was injured during the combine, so his 40 time was slow. But when you talk about there was a next gen stat or whatever where it was Ayuk's last year at Arizona State, where he had with the ball, he had a catch and a run, where that run would have been the third fastest time in the NFL with somebody with the ball. So, I mean, that dude is a burner. So with a guy, especially if we can get Trey Lance in there and Trey Lance proves to be a more effective deep thrower, I think that it's definitely possible that Ayuk does have a 1,000-yard season. So, yeah,
I agree. And you mentioned a lot of guys being injured. But that's a double-edged sword in a sense because he was getting a lot more double teams, double coverage. He was kind of the main focus for a bit. Now there's going to be other weapons. Hopefully, if all goes according to plan, he won't be the focal
you
point.
Want to see that. So,
yep. New sign. It is a new sign. Thank you for noticing.
I'm glad Hung Fat noticed that. When I came on before the show, I was like, dude, that thing's sick. I like it.
I got this sign that I've told you guys before you can't read because it's so damn bright. But this sign, it came with a bunch of letters that I can swap out and have it say different stuff. And it changes lights. This remote sucks, but I theoretically can change the light if I'm close enough. So thank you for noticing. I just set it
so
up.
it's got letters and numbers in it.
Yeah,
You should try to get. Is there any more 9s in there, or is it all?
Yeah, no, there's like a crap load of.
Oh, dude, what we should do. So this is spitballing off the top of my head. This is a little inside baseball, but for 49ers game days, we should put the score behind it when we do our score review.
Oh yeah, good dude, great idea.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Amazon, gotta love Amazon. Melissa, with D'Amico Ryans running things, do we see more turnovers, whether it's 3 and out or interceptions, especially in the secondary?
I'd like to. I think the one thing that people glossed over because everybody was so focused on Nick Bosa and like the fact that the 49ers weren't getting sacks is the fact that the 49ers were not turning the ball over for the opposing team as much as they did the year before. And I think that was a huge thing that, it just seemed like, especially, with those third down plays where before teams would panic in 2019, they would panic and the 49ers would get turnovers or, stop them. It's like 3rd and 14 and we give up the first down. It was those kind of things. And I think that the defense being able to turn the ball over, especially if Nick Bosa can stay healthy, because I do think that the pass rush and I do think those sacks play a part in speeding up the offense to a point where they're more prone to make mistakes. If the 49ers can force more turnovers, that would be an absolutely good thing. And with D'Amico Ryans being a little more aggressive, I could see it, potentially being a double-edged sword where maybe they give up an extra big play or two, but if you get an extra turnover, maybe that kind of balances that out. But I think it'll definitely be more exciting defense. That's for sure.
It reminds me of the way you explained it, the Deshaun Goldson, Dante Whitner days where they went for the big hit and it was either ESPN highlight hit or the guy bounced off and ran for a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, and you just hope that and when you look at who the 49ers kept, they kept Mosley, they kept Verrett, Ambry Thomas. These are corners that play press man.
Mm-hmm.
And those type of things can lead to a lot more tight one-on-one plays. A lot of the things with Richard Sherman was just like, dude, he gives up a lot of the short stuff underneath. And then when he thinks you're going to do short stuff, that's when you can beat him deep. And so it was like a lot of the soft off the ball coverage. And so I do think that playing press man is going to tighten up the defense a little bit and lead to, hey, maybe a batted ball up in the air that somebody's there to kind of pick off and stuff like that. That's things that the 49ers haven't necessarily had. So I'm very interested to see what happens. I just do think that there could be a transition phase where, the 49ers would be a little more prone to, giving up some plays. But against the Eagles and the Lions, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal going forward.
I'm going to skip a couple questions, guys, and we're going to wrap things up shortly. Thank you for sending them all. Matt, question for you. Do you think Jimmy G will be on this team for 2022?
No, I think he's gone. I know they talked about that Jed York said potentially they can carry his contract in 2022. But with so many people coming up, there's no reason to do it, especially if Trey Lance shows that growth. If Jimmy Garoppolo is on the team in 2022, that indicates to me that maybe we should be a little bit worried about Trey Lance.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Tommy Huxley, do you miss Don Burr, Matt?
All I know is he better show up after we put that waxing on the Lions in week 1.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not here. He even showed up when I was solo. If Tevin is a bust for New York Jets, could you see Jets trading for Raheem?
I don't think they'd trade for him. I think that after this season, the 49ers will just let him walk.
Yeah, it's more likely. Somewhere you just made Crystal Peachy's B-Day for that sermon boast. Is it her
Sermon's
birthday?
Nice. I like him.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Crystal Peachy. We love it.
Shout out. Zach, has there ever been a 49er thing that got you Matt Rant fired up? That's a good question. I'm sure there were. Obviously, the whole Super Bowl, how that panned out. You know what? I'll get back to you on that. I got to think. Don't
lie. Nick Mullins pissed you off.
Nick Mullins pissed me off, yeah. But I think it pissed everyone off. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything that set me over the top. My first thought that comes to mind is like the 2012 Super Bowl loss, just because I was watching with my friends from high school, and I was the only 49ers fan, and they took that sick joy in seeing them lose in the fashion that they did, and I was just so crushed. I just left without saying a word and drove home. The 5-minute drive home, I just driving for like an hour. So
yeah, it's funny you say. It's funny you say that. I was at this was when my wife and I started dating in 2012. And so that Super Bowl, it was a 2012 season. The Super Bowl was played in 2013. Me and my wife had been like together for almost a year. And we were watching the game at our family's house. And you remember like they got off to that terrible start and they were down. I went from the living room to watching on the TV outside by myself because I just could not be around anybody, right? And they started making a comeback and I just stayed out there. And then they had that goal line series where, you know, they threw a bunch of fades. I was just like, why are you throwing the goddamn fades?
Yeah.
And, you know, and then the non-call in the 4th and 5 where it was clearly holding. They didn't call it. And that was a gut punch. So, yeah, I definitely remember, you know, telling my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, like, dude, can we get out of here? Like, I'm over it. I felt like I was much more sociable because I hosted the 49ers Super Bowl last time. I was much more sociable for that one. But 2012 was a gut punch.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, especially because you have to be, like you said,
I love
sociable.
them finesses. I love finesses. I know fiance, but
fiance.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. And Ash learned really quickly, and I told her as soon as we started dating, my mood on Sundays from April through, if everything goes right, the first weekend of February is directly impacted by how the 49ers games go. Obviously, I've learned more to manage better. I've learned better how to manage it. Just with how crappy the last couple of seasons have been, it's not that bad when they lose. You just kind of can laugh and shrug it off. But when they're doing so well, like the Super Bowl year a couple of years back, and then it goes to crap, that's when it hurts the most because the losses aren't as frequent. So you're not really used to them in the sense of when they win 6, 7, 8 in a row.
All I know is when me and my wife have kids, my kids are going to learn all their curse words from Sundays. That's what's going to happen. So,
what happens with Laken Tomlinson and Brunskill after the season? Do you see the Niners drafting another guard and tackle? I mean, we still need depth.
It depends, you know, on what their cost is going to be. So you definitely want to keep the depth. If they're cheap, like you might as well keep them. It's not like they're complete trash. They're going to be the secondary is super concerning to me because everybody's on a 1-year deal. They just kind of kicked the can down the road this offseason, right? In a low salary cap year and a year where they were going to draft a quarterback and kind of had to carry Garoppolo's salary just in case. You know, fortunately for competent guard play, it's still not overly expensive. And they could always go the Alex Mack route where you get somebody who's kind of aged out of a big contract that you still think has 1 or 2 years left that you can kind of plug in there. Tackle is the spot where you really want to solidify yourself for years and years. I think guard is something that you can kind of interchange and kind of, you know, move on from. So,
yeah.
Hey, you know what? Spell check gets me all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I will put stuff on spell check where it'll be like, I'm streaming, right? And it'll put like water and then NG. And I'm like, no one talks like this, Google. What are you doing?
Yeah, it sucks. Melissa says, what I'm still over is the 49ers Twitter folks still whining about the late Arizona win to end the 20 season. People are still complaining about that? That's crazy, man.
We got Trey Lance.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. I'm going to go grab some dinner myself, just like Tommy. Thank you all for tuning in to the Red and Gold Narrative Podcast. Support your boys. Links in the description below. Get your Acre Gold. Get your 81 Vino. Get your 49ers Hive merch. Help support the channel. And like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're super close to 2,000 subscribers. We can give away another jersey once we do. Perhaps it'll be a 94 throwback. It'll be the winner's choice. Thank you all for your support.
Go ahead and click the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. We'll be back with you soon. And until next time, go Niners.